A lot of common thinking today places CSR and the whole corporate responsibilities on the shoulders of management, and not so much the board. The idea being that the board is a little bit removed from reality. Now, what we're finding from other surveys, we now have about 12,500 organizations spanning 21 countries, is that there are 2 or 3 trends. The first is about a third of the world's top teams are permanently divided on vision. So you'd have the chief executive and the various directors going into meetings, having a really good discussion, making a clear decision, walking out of the meeting and doing something different to what they just decided. With many of the people, before they go into the meeting, having decided that they will break whatever vows they made at the meeting. The second trend that we're finding with top teams is inhibition. And the big problem here is if many of the directors feel uncomfortable about a particular subject, often because somebody's championed it. It could be like the chief executive. And that would be his or her baby. And it's difficult to raise the subject. What you have is people who know what's wrong with the company, who know what to put right, and know the consequences of saying nothing, will still say nothing. So what emerges from this is about a third of the world's organizations have worked very hard to have a dynamic top team that is clear on what it's supposed to be doing and speaks the truth. And 2/3 of the world's top teams are constantly working their way towards that and never really achieving it. So the unit of analysis is the organization. Each organization has tension. That tension translates itself right from strategy to application and operations. That tension becomes worse if there isn't a unified top team, when you're dealing with synergies that are on the softer side, on the belief side, or on the people side. So in many ways, you could place CSR and the reality of CSR almost like management training, or almost like some of the equality movements that are taking place in companies. And in certain organizations, they are firmly pushed through because you have a top team that really believes in what it's doing. But in most places, you'll get some deviation of practice. We intended to do this, the words were nice, the words written on paper were even better, but then the practice becomes quite difficult. I think the advice to companies would be, where is the point in the structure of the organization where the tensions really begin to rise? The strategic tensions are obviously at the top. But if you've decided on a CSR strategy, as much to look good to the outside world, there is at least an attempt to try and push some sort of CSR innovation down the line. But the further down the line you go, there will be a difference of opinion between the CSR strategy and its application and costs. And in today's mature markets, where you make money as much by being cost disciplined as by making profit, which line manager is really going to spend and invest in CSR when they also have particular budget constraints to fulfill? So the critical issue is, where are those tension points? Is there just one? Are there 2 or 3? The managers just above the individual that is tasked with making CSR work, what's their opinion about CSR, which is a critical factor? And those individuals are sufficiently far enough from senior management to allow their opinion to form practice. So unless you see what the manager thinks, what the manager's manager thinks, and the reality of push to make sure that your costs are always clean and well disciplined, you won't really understand how to make CSR work. So number 1, identify the tension points in the structure. Number 2, understand the degree to which cost and cost management is really part of the business of the organization. And number 3, have an open debate about it. And I suspect number 3 is the sensitive one, because if you have an open debate, you then have to bring to the top team's attention that they're not doing what they said they were doing, and that's sensitive.